cash-strapped airline SpiceJet has now shown interest in buying bankrupt airline Go First. Now, SpiceJet says it will submit an offer on the airline post due diligence and hopes to create a viable airline by combining the two entities. Now, Go First, remember, had filed for voluntary insolvency before the National Company Law Tribunal back in May this year, a decision triggered by Pratt & Whitney engine issues. But SpiceJet too has been grappling with financial headwinds and announced a raising of 2,250 crore lifeline last week. So one cash-strapped airline trying to buy the other. Kartik Malhotra with me here in the studio. Kartik, what sense does it make? What business sense does it make for SpiceJet at the moment to buy out Go First?
Look, Shweta, I think it definitely makes business sense because SpiceJet in itself has a much smaller market share as compared to the two real big airlines that dominate Indian skies. One, of course, being the entire might of Air India, which includes Air India, Air Asia, Air India Express, as well as Vistara. And the other being Indigo, by far the largest single company when it comes to skies, dominating skies in India. So SpiceJet obviously has a great business case when it comes to buying out an airline which is bankrupt, which is grounded, and take possession of the aircraft, take possession of the staff that Go First continues to have on its books, and by way of doing that, increase its own ability to carry more passengers and its own ability to command a much higher market share than it presently does. But the challenge really is, where is the money? Because SpiceJet itself has been struggling to raise cash. Now, it could be possible perhaps that when SpiceJet goes to its lenders or looks at other investors to come into its own business, they may not be very enthused by the prospect of a low-cost airline with a small market share, cash strapped, of course, by investing more money into that airline surviving in isolation. But there might be interest from investors or from lenders, as the case may be, when the business plan includes picking up stake of another airline and overall increasing its market share. Now, the point is, who's going to invest in SpiceJet, and will it really be able to raise the amount of money?
Who will be the lenders? I think that remains a big
Absolutely.
question.
So SpiceJet, to keep itself afloat and to keep its own daily operations running, is looking at raising about $270 million or so. So that amounts to what, I think 2,800 crore rupees or something as per reports. Now, is that going to be sufficient infusion in SpiceJet to also pick up another airline? Obviously not. So it is going to have to look.
And we also don't know the value of Go First at the moment, do we?
It seems, no, we don't know the value of Go First, but it seems that after formally expressing interest to buy Go First, that is when the due diligence will have to be done by SpiceJet, and it'll really have to look at the books and try and estimate a fair value, and then that fair value will also get negotiated, and the arbiter there is going to be the resolution professional who will try and maximize the value of the airline for a bidder to help the promoters of Go First, get as much as they can, juice out as much as they can from the bankrupt airline. But SpiceJet will also have to do its own negotiations after its due diligence and try and find the best value to pick up stake, if not pick up a complete majority stake in Go First.
I think the question that a lot of viewers will have in mind right now is, what is there to pick up in Go First? We know that half of their fleet is currently grounded, other half is not operable. With half the fleet of Go First, will that be enough for a combined entity to perhaps stick to skies and dominate and maybe challenge the existing players? So what value does Go First have at the moment?
That's a difficult question to answer, Shweta. I think the simple point is that it is difficult to estimate the value of an airline, especially one that has been grounded for almost 9 months now, 8 months plus now, and estimate at a fair value when the aircraft actually does not possess any aircraft.
Absolutely.
They're all leased by the lessors, as the case may be, and 50% of those aircraft are unfit to fly. Now, the second point really is that you have, of course, in addition to this very opaque, very ambiguous sort of a value of the airline, you also have litigation costs. You also have the liabilities, which in any case Go First is struggling to keep pace with, and that additional loan that was supposed to come from the Committee of Creditors hasn't come in. So there is, of course, grounded, unserviceable fleet of aircraft,
The
no
2,000
assets
employees.
really. And then, of course, the employees and the other costs associated with acquiring the airline. But the other point is that, you still have a brand, you still have trained staff, you still have a license, and you have a license and additional license, maybe a sub-variant of or a sub-brand or SpiceJet, Spice Go or something could be, a new brand. But you do have the Go First brand, you still have pilots, you still have the ground staff, you still have the crew, and you will then at least possess those 26 aircraft back, which may have to go through another round of overhauling, servicing, etc., and have your fleet at least expand by another 26 aircraft until those unserviceable, faulty Pratt & Whitney 26 aircraft get new engines or serviceable engines.
All right, so a mega entity perhaps in making if this deal goes through, and that is if SpiceJet clears the deal. It is currently negotiating.
But I think it's still going to be a long drawn process, because it'll
absolutely.
start with an expression of interest. That is when the books would be opened up to SpiceJet. SpiceJet would want to look at the numbers, crunch them, negotiate a good value, if at all they do go ahead and intend to make a proposal. We saw what happened last time around. In the nick of time, the proposal did not come through.
Absolutely.
And add to that, SpiceJet is not alone. You've got two more players, in fact, two international players who also seem to be in the fray. You've got Sharjah-based Sky One, and you've got an African player called Safric. And both of these also seem to be expressing some sort of an interest. If not formally, then at least there is enough news that these two players are also seriously looking at contending for Go First.
So three players in the fray at the moment to buy Go First. You cannot write the Go First story off just as yet. Go First could likely see a lifeline coming its way by the three players who are expressing some sort of interest to buy the existing airline, which is currently facing bankruptcy proceedings.